Hello. Sorry about that. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the A Ball and All a podcast. My name is Mpho, and I do a weekly basketball podcast talking all things around the world. You can follow me on Twitter and on YouTube, as well as Instagram at Mpho, and then obviously this YouTube channel that you're watching on. What I've been doing for the past 2 weeks has been doing the Basketball Africa League daily recap. And we're talking all things Basketball Africa League. It is the daily recap of the Nile Conference, the Sahara Conference. Now I'm doing the Nile Conference, and we finally reached the final day of the Nile Conference. Happened last night, and now all roads are leading to Kigali. We're going to talk about that, but let's close out this season with some really good games. There, I think on the final night, you kind of felt like all the teams had already set themselves out in terms of qualification for the playoffs. And the only thing that was going to move was whether if FAP was going to beat Zamalek and Cape Town Tigers were going to lose. And that would just determine 3 and 4 and determine where in Kigali each team plays. One team was going to fight to play US Monastir, or they were going to fight to play Reg of Rwanda. So it was a big thing there, depending on how you felt from a coaching staff or a fan perspective, which of your team wanted to play where in Kigali. And we're going to talk about that. But last night's game, let's start with the first one. Insane game. First ever game in Basketball Africa League to go to overtime. And it was Espoir for cash and the Cape Town Tigers. Cape Town Tigers led from the start up until the middle of the fourth. There was a point where they led by 22 points. They looked really good. Peter Prinsloo finally coming through with 21 points and 11 rebounds. He looked really good. He had 1 block. Liam Reed, the center, getting some minutes because Nkosinathi Sibanyoni was injured. So too was Nkosinathi Festile. And he got like 3 blocks in his 9 minutes and were really good. It looked in that first half that the Cape Town Tigers were the better side. They were double teaming at the right time. The point man of Espoir for cash. They were defending really well the boards. They weren't getting as many rebounds as possible, but they had a rim presence, a rim protection presence. And that's something Cape Town need to figure out, the rebounding. The rebounding stats just look so bad. They lost the rebounding battle 65-45. So the question is, Paul, they look good, right? What happened? From the midway through the third quarter, it was Espoir for cash all the way. It was like a train that the Cape Town Tigers couldn't stop. Billy Preston found himself in some foul trouble. He had to leave. So too did Jamal Artis. He was out of the game since the second quarter due to an injury. And it didn't look really good. And Arsene Mwamba came back with a 3 with 21 seconds left in overtime, but they just kept on going. Rolling Ganga finally found his Espoir for cash, finally found his mojo and started actually putting down the points. He scored 29 points for them with 8 rebounds and 5 assists. You also had 17 points from Assis Ambanza. And there were a lot of fast break points here for Espoir for cash. They were getting a lot of turnovers. Cape Town Tigers was getting a lot loose with the ball, and that really did hurt them. A lot more attempts for Espoir for cash compared to Cape Town Tigers. They had over 100 field goal attempts compared to 71, and that's what it ended up being. It was just Cape Town Tigers just not being able to score and bring that back. And they managed to obviously get the game to overtime, and in overtime, Espoir just kept on going. 9-5 in overtime. Cape Town Tigers were gassed, and you could have seen that. And obviously, Billy Preston fouling out early in overtime didn't help. And the Cape Town Tigers lose that game for a team that played a really great tournament, and then all of a sudden losing at the final hurdle. They did lose 96-92 to Espoir for cash, but it was a great win for Espoir for cash, kind of proving to them that they do belong at this level, that if they sort themselves out, they would do well. Another thing for them, scoring. They need to find a consistent scoring threat. Defensively, they also need to sort themselves. It was really easy for Cape Town Tigers to score on the perimeter, to score inside. It was just depending on how you worked out that half-court offense. Espoir weren't great on the half-court, but they became better in the game. And on top of that, they just kept on winning rebounds, offensive rebounds against the Cape Town Tigers. And that was one of those situations where they won 30 offensive rebounds against the Cape Town Tigers. 30. And they scored at 19 second chance points. That's something that they need to work on. And also their bench points were 73 to 11, I think, which is to 14, which is the biggest disparity in Basketball Africa League. So that was also something from Espoir. It was all about, sometimes basketball can be a game of effort. If you bring in the effort and you're not as don't have as much quality as the other opponent, you can will the game into your favor. And that's what Espoir did throughout that game. They just kept on getting better and better and better and managing to get the momentum into halftime and then winning that game. So that was a really good game. So then that gave FAP the opportunity to move up to third if they were going to beat Zamalek. But that didn't last too long. Edgar Sosa will put on a clinic. He's been putting on a clinic throughout the entire Basketball Africa League. He scored 27 points. Edgar Sosa scored 53 from 2. He was 33 from 3.9. He was 100% from the free throw. And the entire Zamalek team were 15 or 15 from the 3-point line. FAP, good defense, really great team. But again, as I've said before, they don't have that consistent scorer who can give them over 20 points per game. Brice Bidias gave them 17 and 8 rebounds. Cedric Kanfak gave them 16 and 9 rebounds. And Joel Almeida gave them 10 and 5. If you look at this Zamalek team, 27 from Edgar Sosa. Ike Diogu, the MVP of AfroBasket, he gave them a double-double with 13 and 11. Anas Mahmoud scored 9 points and 10 rebounds. Really good defensive effort from Zamalek in that game. And to me, it was just all the dominance of Zamalek across the board. They were just really good. They did take their foot off the gas a little bit, and that was really evident in that game. And so it was one of those things where you're like, okay, this team is qualified. They started off very slowly, but they just kept on moving. Edgar Sosa started coming back into the game, and then in that final quarter, they pulled away properly from FAP. FAP were a great side, good basketball team, really good defensively, but against the mighty power of Zamalek, it's not that great. More shot attempts, less efficiency did FAP had. And if you look at Zamalek, slower offense, but they still put down the points and very efficient. On top of that, 15 from 15 rebounds. That's 100%. FAP only 50% of the rebounds. Zamalek won the rebounding battle there and also had 5 more assists, which kind of tells you the style of play that they're playing. But on the other hand, FAP had more points in the paint, and I kind of feel that's where they can shoot. They shot 17% from 3. It's not that great. Zamalek weren't that great either, 25%. But that's where FAP kind of puts themselves in. Points from turnovers, they were there. They had less turnovers than Zamalek, but they still lost. And that kind of tells you. And the reason why is a lot of the turnovers that Zamalek had were fast breaks, and they had 17 points from fast breaks compared to 6. And so it was a good game. And it's just one of those situations where to the end of the tournament, there's nothing to play for, just for pride. The Zamalek fans, by the way, are insane. They sing from tip-off until the end. It was a really great atmosphere and a really great tournament. And let's talk about that tournament. Conference, Nile conference, really good, really strong. I think the strength was more in the Sahara conference. I thought the teams in the Sahara conference were a lot stronger than the ones in the Nile conference. It's going to be interesting to see how the playoffs move out. But really well hosted, well done to the Basketball Africa team to get that done through Ramadan as well. And so a lot of players were observing Ramadan, probably one of the reasons why the games were a lot later, to just make sure that the players were able to break their fast and go through all of that. But really well done from the Basketball Africa League. One last thing to look at. Let's look at the fixtures. So these are the final fixtures on the of the Nile conference. All done. 15 fixtures done. Some surprises that Espoir and Cape Town Tigers was a massive surprise. So too Cape Town Tigers beating FAP. That kind of set Cape Town Tigers tournament alight. Then they went on to go and beat Cobra Sport, a team they lost to in the qualifiers. So you see quite a lot of those coming through. And FAP beating Cobra Sport to guarantee themselves in 2 days ago. That was really a good thing to see. Let's look at the table. Table ends like this: Zamalek at 1, Petro de Luanda at 2, Cape Town Tigers at 3, FAP at 4, largely because of the head-to-head between Cape Town Tigers and FAP. Cobra Sport winning 1 game with Espoir for cash as well at the bottom. They'll be disappointed. Hopefully, they'll want to come back. They're going to have to go through the qualifiers again to make sure, they make it for Basketball Africa League 2023. So that's going to be quite interesting and keen to watch. However, now we move on in a month's time to Kigali in Rwanda, the Kigali Arena. That's where it's going to be at. The playoffs. It's going to be a week of basketball, and that's how it's going to end. We're going to start on the Monday, we're going to end on the Sunday, and that's how it's going to how Basketball Africa League 2022 single elimination game. So let me give you the brackets and show you how it's going to. I think it's going to work out. These are the playoffs in Kigali. 21st of May, we start with the first game. That's Reg, the Rwanda Energy Group Basketball Club. They will be. They are the team from Rwanda. They won the Sahara Conference, remember? So they'll start off their first game there against FAP from Cameroon. I think that's actually quite an interesting game. Reg are a very good three-point shooting team. FAP can defend the perimeter quite well. In the paint, they're also quite strong, but I think Reg might just light them up from 3 and see how they do. Both similar size in terms of height. There's no height disadvantage like FAP had with Zamalek in the group game. So that's going to be quite an interesting playoff. I know they finished 1 in Sahara, and this one's the 4th team in Sahara. But if there was an upset, it could come from here. FAP have done this before. They've beaten Petro de Luanda before in the previous year. They could get themselves through. They just need to get their scoring right, and they'll be there. We've got a month to do it. So next game is Petro de Luanda and Saleh. Another upset alert. Saleh with Terrell Stogling, he's going to come through. Petro de Luanda, all the stars, Carlos de Moraes, Yannick Moreira, who we saw in this tournament. It's going to be quite a massive game here. 2 teams who have historical significance in basketball in Africa going up against each other in a quarterfinal. I think Liz Mills is going to have a game plan for this Petro team, and it's a single elimination, so anything can happen. That's why we love it. It is like March Madness, like college basketball. That's what it's going to end up being. And then next day you're going to have the winners of the Nile Conference is Zamalek against Slack. I think this is the biggest mismatch of the tournament. Actually, the next 2 games are the biggest mismatches of the tournament. Zamalek and Slack. And then it also means that Zamalek and Monastir, the final, is going to be in the semi-final. But massive mismatch. I don't think Slack have it enough to take on Zamalek. I know there's a month, but I don't think so. I think Zamalek are a powerhouse. So too in this next game. I'm a South African, but I think the Cape Town Tigers may have reached the end of their road here. Anything is possible. They've got some shooting and offensive firepower, but how do you defend Majok? How do you defend Majok? And then they've also got Suleiman Diabate. They've got some really great scorers there in that team that can give you 10 a game. And then Radwan Sliman is one of them. And so I don't know how else the Cape Town Tigers handle Majok. If Majok is on point here, I don't see the Cape Town. I see the Cape Town Tigers not getting through here, which would mean that my semi-finals could potentially be Luanda, Reg, or even Saleh and Reg against Zamalek and Monastir. There's a potential the BAL final is going to be last year's BAL final will be on the 25th of May in winner of quarterfinal 3, quarterfinal 4 with Zamalek and on Monastir. And then the loser goes to the 3rd playoff and the winner goes into the finals. That's going to be a massive game. We'll talk about that as we go along. I still think Zamalek might still have it over Monastir, but I don't think Monastir don't want to lose to a team twice, and anything is possible in the game. And it's the best opportunity for Petro de Luanda to actually make the final. Yeah, I think in the top bracket, they're the strongest team here. I know Reg are much better, one Sahara, but I do think Petro at the top, in that top bracket, are the team to beat. But I'm yet to be proved wrong. So yeah, until we meet again in Kigali, see you in Kigali. From myself, Mpho. It's been the Basketball Africa League Daily Recap, and we'll see you in a month's time. Enjoy your time, or enjoy the time away from all this basketball. I'll continue with some NBA playoff stuff. Enjoy the playoffs, enjoy the start of the WNBA, and we'll talk in the back end of when the teams are all back in Kigali to discuss the permutations going into Kigali as we've done here. But for myself and Mpho and the Ball and All team, or myself, goodbye and Lesale Kakakis.